everyone, this is Brittany Hunter, horticulturist and extension assistant professor for Utah State University. This webinar is dedicated to Gardening 101. You need a few basic supplies to grow your own backyard vegetable garden. You need 6 or more hours of sun, soil, seeds or plants, and water. Some other tools that will help you have a successful garden are fertilizer, adding compost to the soil, using mulch, having some gardening tools, tomato cages, and one of my favorite tools is my harvest basket, so I can load it up with vegetables and carry them inside to start cooking. There are a ton of great varieties to try in the garden. You'll find varieties that are well acclimated to Utah at the nursery and in seed catalogs. Hybrid varieties are varieties that are cross-pollinated in a controlled environment and often have disease resistance or have been bred specifically for higher yield, flavor, or size. Open pollinated varieties are pollinated without any human intervention, just by bees and other insects, and are adventitious because you can save the seed and grow the same plants year to year. Heirloom varieties are open pollinated and are given the name heirloom because they're traditional in some way or have been around longer than 50 years. A common question I get is, what's the best tomato variety? I have a lot of favorites, but I'm going to share with you some tomato taste test results from a taste testing we had with master gardeners. You can see that Sun Sugar received the most votes by far. It's a cherry-sized tomato that's yellow and it's super sweet. Some other varieties that people enjoyed were Better Boy, Rutgers, Cherokee Purple, and Jetstar. I've been fascinated by the variety of shapes and sizes and colors of sweet peppers. Here's two varieties, a picture of two varieties that I would recommend trying. The 4 varieties that are listed here are all sweet pepper varieties. Carmen is a long, slender, red sweet pepper, and Escamillo is a yellow sweet pepper. Some other varieties I like to grow in my own garden are Scarlet Runner beans. They're a pole bean. You can eat the beans fresh or for cooking, and they also have these beautiful red flowers. Sugar Baby Watermelon is another one of my favorites. It's a delicious watermelon, but what I like about it is it's a small size, which means it matures a little bit more quickly, and it also stores well in the refrigerator if you can't eat it all at once. Purple potatoes are another one of my favorites to grow. I love the color and they taste really good. And lemon gem marigolds are another one of my favorites. You can see a picture there on the bottom of a small, they grow into a small little bush of yellow or orange flowers, and they do have a lemony scent. They also attract beneficial pollinators and other beneficial insects. If you have a variety that's worked well in your garden, we'd like to hear from you, and you can go onto this website, extension.usu.edu/vegetable review, and submit your own review, and we will take those reviews and publish them in our recommendation fact sheet. You can download the fact sheet of recommended vegetable varieties for northern Utah on this website. When it comes to plants, bigger's not always better. You want to find a plant while you're shopping in the nursery that is healthy, and if you pull it out of the container, you can see that it's well rooted but that it's not root bound. If by chance, when you go to plant your plant, you see a lot of circling roots, it's okay to gently break up those roots and crack it a little bit, and that will help the roots get pointed outwards and get established. If you want to grow a variety that's not available at a plant nursery, you might want to start your own seeds at home. For more information on that, reference our fact sheet called Grow Your Own Transplants at Home. When you plant outside into your garden, make sure that the soil level of your plant is about the same in the pot as it is outside. You don't want to bury it too deep. The exception to that would be tomatoes. Burying tomatoes deep, when you bury the stems, they'll actually grow new roots out of the stem. But for most other plants, you want to keep the soil level the same. For seeds, most seeds we want to place very shallow, right below the soil surface. The rule of thumb is 3 times the width of the seed. The trick is to get good soil to seed or soil to root contact so that when you start to water the soil, it keeps the new roots moist so they can get established and grow quickly. We put most vegetables in 2 groups, cool season vegetables and warm season vegetables. Cool season vegetables can tolerate some frost, but only a few will tolerate very cold temperatures below 20 degrees. Some examples of cool season vegetables are broccoli, lettuce, peas, radishes, carrots, beets, pak choy, and onion. Warm season vegetables are sensitive to frost below freezing, and they can't live if the temperatures are below freezing. Some examples of warm season vegetables are tomatoes, peppers, watermelons, zucchini, cucumber, basil, and beans. Because warm season vegetables are sensitive to freezing temperatures, they can only grow in what we call our frost-free period, which along the Wasatch Front extends from the beginning of May to the beginning of October. You can see the frost-free period highlighted in orange on this calendar. You can also notice that our cool season vegetables can start to be planted earlier in March and can extend growth into November. This chart shows when you can start seeding or planting different vegetables along the Wasatch Front. This table can be found online at garden.usu.edu in our Gardener's Almanac. For each vegetable, there is a days to maturity or days to harvest number given on the back of your seed packet or on the plant tag. For this Black Beauty eggplant, it says we can harvest it in 80 days. You can use that to figure out how long it will take to harvest, and also make sure you have enough time in the growing season to get your plant to mature. That 80 days given on the plant tag is fairly accurate. However, plants can only grow fast when the temperatures are right. So in general, the days to harvest is a little bit longer than you see on the plant tag, just because some days during the growing season are cool, and you can see on the graph on the right that if the temperatures are too cool, the plant can't grow as fast. You can use this days to harvest or days to maturity to compare different varieties to find one that's earlier maturing than the other. When it comes to soil, not all soils are created equal. Here are some pictures that a gardener sent me of an experiment that she did with different soil mixes in her raised bed garden. On the left, the raised bed was filled with Mel's Mix. Mel's Mix is recommended in the Square Foot Gardening book. It's a third vermiculite, a third peat moss, and a third compost. In the center, she omitted vermiculite, so the bed is half peat moss and half compost. And on the right, she mixed 30% compost, 20% peat moss, and 50% of her alkaline sandy soil from her yard. You can notice that the plants on the right are a lot bigger than the plants in the other boxes. The reason for that is that soil, which is comprised of sand, silt, and clay, is better at holding water and nutrients than peat moss and other soil media that's common in raised garden mixes and potting soil for containers. Compost is a great way to improve not only your raised garden soil, but the soil already in your garden. When you add compost or organic matter, it will break up clay soil to make it drain better and will help sandy soils retain water and be more fertile. Organic matter or compost is anything that was previously living, such as grass clippings, leaves, composted yard waste, or manure. We recommend adding about 2 inches per year. So that means piling up about 2 inches thick on the soil surface and then working it in with a shovel or a tiller. While you don't need fertilizer to grow a plant and get it to produce vegetables, when you add fertilizer, you'll find that your plants get bigger and put on a lot more fruit. On your fertilizer bag, you'll see 3 numbers. Those 3 numbers represent nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Nitrogen is primarily responsible for will make the plant put on lots of leaves. Phosphorus is great for fruiting and flowering, and potassium promotes roots and strength. Nitrogen is the most water-soluble of the nutrients, which means that it doesn't stick around for very long, so we have to replace it every year. So when should we fertilize? It's good to fertilize a little bit right as you're planting, and then because nitrogen is so water soluble, you can side dress or add a little bit more fertilizer 1 to 2 more times leading up to fruiting. Refer to our USU fact sheets and the fertilizer bag label for specific guides. To side dress fertilizer, simply apply it to the side of your row of plants as you see on the image on the right. You can also get liquid fertilizer that you can mix up in a watering can and simply water in. For most vegetable gardens, you need to water about every 3 to 7 days, depending on the soil type. Sandy soils drain more quickly, so you might need to water a little more frequently. Clay soils hold on to water really well, and it's easy to overwater. Also, if you're using a mulch, like the picture on the bottom left, I've added a thick layer of leaves to my garden here, which keeps the water in the soil so I don't have to water as frequently. You can see where I've cleared the leaves away that the soil is very wet underneath. The saying goes with weeds, weed early and weed often. Controlling weeds when they're very small is easy, by pulling them out or using a simple weeding tool. Once weeds get big, they're harder to remove. The picture on the bottom left shows a large garden where pre-emergent herbicides are used. You can use pre-emergent herbicides that are either a granule that you spread out or a spray, After your vegetable plants are established, you can apply that pre-emergent herbicide and it will stop any weed seedlings from germinating. You can also stop weeds from growing in the first place by using a thick layer of mulch. You can see on the right a thick layer of straw in our pathway that keeps weeds down. For more help on weeds, find our Common Weeds of the Yard and Garden guidebook, which can help you identify weeds and teach you how to control them. If you find some bugs are bugging your garden, here's a few tips. The middle picture on the bottom shows a big pile of aphids on the underside of a leaf. Aphids are a common pest in the vegetable garden, but are not too hard to control. What you can do is simply wash aphids off with a heavy jet of water. This gets them off the leaf and more spread out so that the predatory insects in the environment can catch up with them. Ladybugs and ladybug larvae, as seen on the picture there, eat aphids, and so they'll catch up with them and take care of them. You can also reduce pests in the garden by controlling weeds around your garden to remove the habitat of those pests. Also, when you diversify your planting and plant flowering plants, you'll attract beneficial insects and predatory insects into your garden. Another trick I use is to use row cover during the early season, which you can see on the picture on the right. A row cover cloth is specifically designed to lay over the top of seedlings and vegetable plants to protect them from cold temperatures, and it can also serve as a pest barrier to keep slugs and beetles and other pests out. When you use this, your plants are allowed to get a little bit big under there, and then when you remove it, when the temperatures get a little bit warmer, then your plant is a little bit larger and can withstand some feeding from pests. For more tips on how to control pests in the garden, go to utahpests.usu.edu. Here's an example of more fact sheets that we have online that show you how to grow different vegetables in the garden and control pests. We also have gardening books and several gardening apps for your smartphone that can help you identify weeds and quickly pull up resources on growing vegetables at home. I would also encourage all of you to visit our edible demonstration garden in Kaysville at the USU Botanical Center. We have vegetables, berries, tree fruit, and grapes all growing there, and you can stop by and learn about different varieties, and you can also do some taste testing. Thank you for your attention today. I hope I've shared some good tips with you, and I wish you a great gardening season.